The next topic is a fireside chat. It's video streaming, a catalyst for change. And for this, may I please call upon stage Siddhartha, Laik, founder and editor-in-chief, IWMBuzz Media Network. He deserves the loudest cheer, doesn't he? He'll be joined on stage by Nikhil Madhok, head Hindi Originals, Prime Video India.
Thank you so much, Subhajit, and thank you so much, sir, for taking time out and doing this.
Thank you.
Before I begin, I must confess that Nikhil sir is one of the finest individuals that you can ever meet. He might be dealing with a lot of pressures when it comes to commissioning shows, but he's always cool, calm, and dealing with a lot of gravitas. So, so someone agrees in the audience, sir. So to begin the conversation, congratulations on all the great work done recently. Some phenomenal shows like Jubilee, Farzi, Dahar, most recently Made in Heaven. So, sir, please tell me, what's the philosophy when it comes to, at Prime Video, to choosing the concepts that you have done? How do you actually decide what to commission and what to commission?
Okay, that's always a fun question to answer. Like we try and say in India, this is a and country and not an or country. So it's a combination of data and gut and creative instinct. Where the data comes in handy is, basis what our viewers are watching on our service, what kind of genres are they enjoying, what kind of consumer cohorts are served well, who is underserved, what genres are working. That gives us insights into what kind of area should we be looking at from a content perspective. And that's fairly sort of directional. But storytelling is so much about creative instinct and gut that without that you can't create breakthrough content. And that creativity really comes from the hearts and minds of our creators. And we collaborate very closely with them to choose what works for Amazon. And the biggest thing that I look for, or the creative team at Amazon looks for, is how passionate the maker is about their idea. Because typically a streaming show, from the time that it's pitched to the time that it actually launches on the service, can take anything between sort of 2 to 3 years. So you need somebody to be really passionate about their idea, that story, to stay invested for so long. And the more sort of rigor that they've put into their pitch, the better character arcs and the world building that they've done, it just gives us confidence to say, hey, we're going to back your vision. And there's a fairly extensive collaboration process that we follow with them for the next 2 to 3 years to bring their vision to life. And so it's really the germ is the passionate storyteller and his creative idea, and then we match it with whatever data that we have in terms of what we are looking for in terms of open spaces, and that's how hopefully good work comes out.
So you mentioned it's a 2-3 years span of process from writing to maybe it's quite a lot of time, so there's no quick success in this. So what are the genres you think, sir, it's working overall in the OTT industry or maybe in Prime? Is it crime? Is it romance? Is it more of anthologies? What is it that you feel the audience interest is more and more as the ecosystem evolves?
So let me answer this in 2-3 ways. That the good part is that a variety of stories are working, and that's what OTT is sort of enabling. If you just look at not even the last 5 years, but the last 7-8 months since the beginning of 23, we created a show called Farzi with Raj and DK, which is like this crime thriller. We then had a beautiful period piece of Bollywood in the 50s called Jubilee. We also had a family comedy that we created with Atish and JD called Happy Family Conditions Apply, which was a fun show. There was a young adult show musical called Ji Karda. There's a horror show with the MA, which is called Adhura. And now the AP Dhillon documentary, Made in Heaven, which is a show around these exquisite marriages, Dancing on the Grave. So if you look at the range of stories that we've managed to tell and the response that we've got from consumers, if a story is well told and it comes from the right space, that variety is really helping. And it's not only just helping for the content in India, but all these stories are also traveling extensively across the globe. In fact, for the Hindi originals that we put out, about 25% of the viewership for those shows comes from outside India. So
Wow.
it's really a great time to be telling a variety of stories, and really the world is our oyster.
Talking about so the content, some shows work wonderful, great reviews. At times you put a lot of effort on shows and they might not live up to the expectations from the audience acceptance basis. So when shows you worked hard don't work, how do you then go back to the drawing board and rectify it? So what's the process like when it comes to making sure that the next show picked is better or from the last that you did?
You know, the good part, at least at Prime Video and Amazon, is that the ability to take risks is very high. And when we create content, we give it our best shot. You know, our creative team believes in the vision of the maker. We do our best to collaborate with them through the development process, through the production process. We also have a fantastic marketing, PR and communication team that then take that story and make it bigger and make it accessible to people, create that real...
That I absolutely agree.
Plus one on that, and they really create this desire to watch. And after doing all of that, yes, the nature of the business is such that, you know, sometimes things won't, you know, land up in the place that you'd like it to be. And we're totally comfortable with that. If there are any, you know, learnings in the process, we may have gone wrong, we'll look back and reflect. But it's never come in the way of saying, hey, this hasn't worked, so let's not do this again. We'll keep trying till we, get it right. In fact, if you look at the last 6 months, there are 3 very different kind of documentaries that we've put out. And every documentary has been received with varied levels of success. But we are going to continue to invest and do more docus for the rest of the year as well. You'll see a bunch coming out in the rest of 2023 as well. And we feel that the more we do it, the more we build the muscle memory to get it right. And success and failure is part of it, and we're quite comfortable.
I have two questions that I wanted to ask. So how much is the balance between data and creative call? Like, you're of course a tech company, tech content company, which relies heavily on data, metrics to take decisions. And of course, like you mentioned, commissioning or making content is more of a heart and understanding your instincts. So say you like a subject, but the data says, no, this is not going to work. So what do you do then?
Actually, the way it works is, I'll give you an example. The viewership patterns of our consumers may turn around and tell us that there is a lot of deep engagement with crime stories. So the data points us to the direction to say, hey, for the remainder part of the year, it'll be good if we are able to program 4 crime stories in the year. That's the input from a data perspective. But now there are 100 crime stories out there that come to us every year. The creative instinct and the gut is really in terms of finding which are those 4 or 5 out of those various crime stories that we'd like to tell. And that's where things like the passion of the maker, the uniqueness of the idea, is it unique to us, is it unique to the overall ecosystem, how well is it thought through, how's the story arc looking like, is it surprising you, and most importantly, does it feel like something that's really rooted in our country, because we want to tell sort of local authentic stories. That's where we use our gut instinct to say, let's narrow it down to these 5. And in other places, you could land up, seeing that maybe you're under-programmed for young adults, and we must create more show for young adults who are increasingly more and more active on SWAT. Again, the same thing, that even if you know that you want to, create a young adult show, which is the right young adult show, that's always a function of instinct and the passion of the maker.
Absolutely, the instinct and passion on top of everything. Sir, you have been a very strong professional throughout the years. You have seen different mediums. Streaming is what, like 6-7 odd years, and now it's everywhere. Everyone is talking about OTT, streaming. There's got the great convergence of across mediums, storytellers. So at Prime, how do you stay ahead of the competition curve? Like, I'm sure everyone is trying to get a pie of the same audience interest, all platforms. आप कैसे सर वो competitive edge लाते हैं?
So firstly, competition is good. Competition is good for the consumer. It's good for us. It keeps us on our toes. It makes sure that you don't get complacent. So, and really the growth of OTT in the country has been a real boon, and I'm sort of fully excited about that. But let me step back. You and a lot of you in the audience may have heard this before, that Amazon is the kind of company that really the core philosophy of the organization is customer obsession. So it's really what is best for our customers that drives all decision making in the company, and in a very sort of nice sort of way, you land up seeing that when you're making those decisions, keeping the customer at the center, you also land up being quite differentiated from others. So to more specifically answer your question, Prime Video is more than a SVOD service in the country. Of course, SVOD is at the core of what we do. But we're like an entertainment hub, like a sort of a marketplace. So you have Prime Video channels through which you can access other streaming services through Prime Video. Recently we also introduced BBC Player into the mix. If you look at the Prime program a little more broadly, it gives you access to free shipping on Amazon Shopping, access to Amazon Music, to Prime Gaming, etc. So just this overall compelling offering that Prime has is very different from anything else out there.
It's a whole bouquet.
It's a whole bouquet. The second place where I feel Amazon is quite differentiated is the amount of reach we're able to deliver both in India and across the globe. So today in India, we get viewership from 99% of the PIN codes in the country, which basically tells you the extensive reach that Amazon has in the country. And then when we are launching original content, Indian original content, on day and date, it's accessible in more than 220 countries at the same time. So this combination of global and local reach again is something which is very unique to Amazon. And finally, it boils down to the kind of stories that we're telling and the IP that we're creating. And if you look at this being the home of Mirzapur and Family Man and Jubilee and Dahar and Farzi and Inside Edge and FOMO Shots, it's those stories that are so different from and get so much love from our consumers that also helps differentiate it from what others are doing.
Superb. Now talking about stories and IPs that you mentioned, some of the shows, of course you work with some of the finest creators in the country, like Excel, TVF, anyone that you name, of Raj DK. So how do you get to work with the best creators? Like, what's the process of figuring out which creator can deliver and to choose which creator to work with?
Yeah, no, great question. I think when it comes to creators, what I've noticed is that they have largely two things in their mind when determining where they want to bring their stories to. The first and most important one is, do they feel that the platform that they're collaborating with has the right creative culture? Are these people who will, sort of support my vision, which will encourage and nourish my idea? And that to them is extremely important. And what we do there is, of course, we back their passion projects, but the process is also designed to help them. Let me give you a couple of examples. There was no concept of writer's room when Amazon started. Individual writers used to write together, but we started getting a bunch of talented people together to say, if you contribute and co-create together, something more meaningful will come out. I'm also very proud of the fact that every single Amazon show where we have hired writers or creators is all backed by contracts, so that every writer is being paid for their effort, adequately compensated. Nobody is expected to work free of cost, and that's great for the writers in the ecosystem. We've also used our extensive network across the globe and got a lot of script consultants, experts in the field of content to come in and do workshops and training for these writers' rooms, so that if they have any issue, if they're facing some challenges, some knots in their mind on how do I think of this screenplay, I'm getting stuck here, this is not sort of reaching the next level, then we have all those resources in addition to our creative team to sort of help those writers. So in that development process, there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of input that goes in. And then you, of course, create an opportunity for, backing their vision with the right budgets, with the right cast. And then the second thing that's really important to creators is how does my story reach the maximum number of people? And selfishly and absolutely rightfully, every creator wants to make sure that their story is widely distributed. And that's again where Amazon's reach comes into play, the technology comes into play, and as I spoke about, the great effort that's pulled into building that brand with our marketing and communications team. Every launch is so highly anticipated. The IP becomes much more, the intent to watch really goes up. So for a creator, this is a place which is protecting and nurturing their creative vision and also giving it a fantastic platform. And then some of the shows that I've mentioned that have come out, that just gives them encouragement that if this is a place that's delivered these kind of shows, then I want to bring my best story to Amazon first.
So
that's the hope. That's what I hear from them.
Now, what I can understand is that you're working very closely with them to empower them with ideas, to ensure that it's a teamwork for the best storytelling. Now, OTT is about reach. The pin code reference was pretty interesting to draw a reach parameter. OTT is making new stars. A lot of people who otherwise could not get opportunity in different mediums, OTT has opened a lot of doors. Do you think the traditional playbook of stardom or casting ways to look at the things have changed thanks to OTT?
Absolutely, and I think OTT in general and Prime Video in particular, casting is one place that I feel as an industry and as a company made a dramatic difference. So if you look at Ritwik and Shreya, who were the stars of Bandish Bandits, they were pretty much ranked newcomers, and we made them the lead faces of one of our biggest shows. Now it looks like a very obvious choice to have Jaideep Ahlawat play Hathiram Chaudhary, but at that point in time it was a really brave decision. Now you feel like nobody else could have played that role, but it's in hindsight. At that time it was a brave call. Even the star cast of Mirzapur, which is now, they're pretty much superstars. But again, in 2017, 18, when we went into production, they were all, talented people. They were not necessarily the biggest names out there. But, 2 seasons of the show and some of the other stellar work that they've done have made them so popular amongst audiences. And, that trend has continued. So earlier this year, there was the Shahid Kapoor starrer Farzi. But right next to Shahid was this guy called Bhuvan Arora, who played his friend. And his performance was so well received. And just after Farzi, Bhuvan is now headlining his own shows, including some that he's working with us on. Again, Siddhartha Gupta in Jubilee. What a fantastic breakout star-making performance. So all these decisions that we've taken from a casting perspective have really worked, and it's largely because the culture is to say, this is the story. What's the right cast for this story? Who's the right actor? Who's the most talented actor who can do justice to this particular character? And it's always story.
There's no set formula as such.
There's no formula, and there's definitely never a scene where, it's like this is a person who's a big star who's associated with this project, so let's go ahead and do the project. We always think of the story first, the script first, once all the scripting
who
is
fits
completed,
into it,
and then decide on, who's going to play the ensemble. And I think so many new people have got an opportunity. And there is so much talent in the country.
So much talent. I mean, you're nurturing the creators, you're nurturing the new actors, of course, writers. So it is absolutely the catalyst for change, OTT. So how do you see, sir, streaming contributing to the growth of India's creative economy? If you can talk about it, sir.
Sure. Streaming is definitely a force for good when it comes to the creative economy. So what happens is people get streaming has democratized the opportunity for creators, that provided them a level playing ground in terms of a platform where they can take their stories to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. It's also democratized the opportunity for viewers, that you can now access the best content from across the country and across the world easily. But what gets spoken about less and is, I feel, very important is the amount of investment that we are making in original content in the country. And each time you commission a new show or a movie, or there is so many people who get employed, writers, producers, technicians, cameraman, makeup artists, designers. So a huge force of people land up getting employed because of that. And the second part is it's also impacting the larger creative economy by also helping Bollywood. Because if you look at movies, today a significant part of their revenue is the digital rights that we pay for. And a lot of movies today land up getting made, or at least getting made at the scale that they do because of the investment from the OTTs. So it's also contributing to the larger cycle, ecosystem. We've recently partnered with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting in an agreement where we're going to be nurturing talent from across the country. There are going to be programs of training, internships for students from FTII, from the Satyajit Ray Film Institute. We are also working very closely with the principal scientific advisor to the Government of India. We recently announced a series called Mission Startup, which is a reality show, which at one level is going to be a really engaging show, but at the other level it's also a way to celebrate the startup ecosystem in the country. And we are also doing this program in partnership with the government, which is the 75 Creative Minds of Tomorrow, where we are providing training, access, internships and opportunities at Prime Video to 75 of the creative minds of the country. And I feel that this partnership is also going to go a long way in producing the next generation of talent. And as we like to say in Amazon, for us it's still day one.
Wonderful. I know it's saying time's up, but I'll take 2 minutes of yours because I've got a question from Shri, who's my editorial counterpart. Like when you decide on seasons, say Wait in Heaven or any such seasons, so do you pre-decide that show will come for 3 seasons, 4 seasons, or you wait to see the first season is succeeding or not? How do you go about it?
I've spoken a lot about the good stuff, but I must call out the places where we are creatively challenged and still not doing a good job, which is actually on seasons. If you notice, one of the common consumer complaints is that there is a lot of gap between 2 seasons. So if season 1 has launched, people expect actually the second season to come within a few
next day,
and it usually takes a couple of years, and that's because till now we've been commissioning the writing for the first season, and depending on the performance of the first season, then you choose whether you want to take this forward or not, if audiences have loved it or not. And that is something that we're actually working to solve in a way that maybe we write 2 seasons together, and so that the writing part, which actually takes a good 8 to 10 months, that is already in the bag before you move into production for season 2. And that's one of the challenges for Amazon and for the industry, that how do you crunch this time without compromising on quality. I feel currently the gaps between the seasons are high, and it needs to be brought down. Yeah. And it's a challenge that we're aware of and trying to find various solves for.
Thank you so much. So OTT is fostering catalyst of change, and Prime is at the forefront of it. Nikhil, Madhok, gentlemen. Yeah, thank you.